Hands up, all of you who can remember the following. Strong and stable. Now, virtually 8 months on, it's clearly time to add to the May mantra. So, to keep the alliterative theme going, how about stayed, or stuck, or stultifying, or even downright ball-breaking, yawn-inducing, life-threatening scaredy cat makes you want to jump out of the window in frustration or embrace momentum as if it were the best lover you've ever had? Stupid! Boris Johnson was brutally and wrongly slapped down for suggesting more funds for the NHS. At least he was showing some initiative. When the Conservatives are attacked by the army and, as the supposed party of law and order, fails so lamentably with soaring crime figures, well, it's fair to say they're losing their core support. This can be seen as a veritable mayday, Theresa. So time to step up and dazzle us with some stunning policy ideas.
Wow.
Well, at least you've got people laughing. I think there we go. I've done my work
I
here.
mean, Nick, I think Theresa May is doing an appalling job.
Yeah.
I do think, however, that she was handed a poisoned chalice. And I feel sorry for her as a human being, though I don't think she's a good leader. And that's kind of, I think, the problem here, because actually sometimes nice people make horrible leaders and sometimes horrible people make great leaders. I mean, we just discussed Churchill, didn't we, right? And Gandhi and Mandela. But I think here in this situation, she's genuinely, I think, trying to hold the country together. I think she feels a sense of duty. But I concede, and I agree, that she's doing an awful job about it. What I worry about is the following. If some of these Tory MPs, who are right in saying she's doing a bad job, launch a leadership, I think you need 8 more letters.
Well, they say that you need 48, and they say they're at 40, but nobody actually knows. That's the lose.
What I worry about is this. If they succeed in triggering a leadership contest, the alternatives could be far worse. And what are the alternatives? Well, for one, according to the latest YouGov stats, Corbyn is 1 percentage point ahead of the Tories. If a Corbyn government is elected because the Tories don't get there together, then the danger is, of course, you end up with... And Corbyn is a bit cuddly. It's who's around him that I'm worried about, right? So you've got the McDonalds of this world, and even worse, the Seamus Milnes of this world, who are pretty much Soviet Union defenders, right? They are, I mean, come on, he wrote a column defending the Soviet Union, right? Saying Stalin was misunderstood. That's Seamus Milne for you. And these are unreconstructed communists around Corbyn who I think would grind this country down into the ground. So we've got to consider that as well.
Neatly done. Let's just, for the viewers who don't know the clip, this is from Johnny Mercer, the Conservative MP. Here's what he said. I have a profound fear of Jeremy Corbyn becoming Prime Minister. I think he could well be Prime Minister if we don't get our S word together. And to continue with that theme, Majid, 3 other Conservative MPs, quite prominent ones actually, Sir Nicholas Soames, who of course is related to Winston Churchill, why did I say that? Grandson of Nick Bowles and Robert Halfon wrote a piece in the Sun newspaper in which they spell out 3 areas the PM must sort out: health, housing and higher education, and that does quite well. Phil, we've come to you. Obviously we know...
There's an area that the Conservatives in particular need to sort out well and truly before they even touch any of that, and that is to pull together as a team. Because if they were in the army with me and my platoon just suddenly went off on the tangent and was trying to stab me in the back and all that sort of stuff, I'd find it very, very difficult to progress in the battlefield. And May is having it. Right, she might not be the most popular one, but she's what you've got. Get yourselves together, get yourselves rally behind the woman instead of all these people upstarts kicking off and trying to get her thrown out of the job. And if you can get your act together, then you might be able to progress and touch all this other stuff.
But
until you can do that,
the government be run as an army, do you think?
I'm not saying it should be run as an army. I'd like to see it sometime because it might be a bit more organised than what it is. I mean, all this cackling and howling when you watch them on the benches from me, and I don't know nothing about politics really. Right. But when I look from the outside
like Majid, then, honestly.
But when I look from the outside in and I see the way they conduct themselves and the way the business is done, it's a bit higgledy-piggledy to me.
Just lastly, staying with a military, if you think that your party is marching to the wrong beat and you're completely alienating the population, isn't it? And bear in mind, you're not taking
No, you have to take stock.
I respect what you've
She's got two things to do at the moment, really, hasn't she? She's got to sort Brexit out. OK, these should be our main concerns. Get the party behind her, sort Brexit out, and then the other thing she's got to do, as any good soldier would do, is stop the enemy coming any further. Okay. So she's got to stop Corbyn from overtaking her. And that's where she needs to be.
Coming to you in a minute. I want to bring Afua in, just because I was hoping Brexit wouldn't feature too largely, but do you think it's because Brexit just sucks the life out of everything else?
I think that weak Conservative leaders got us in this mess, right? It was Cameron not being able to stand up to Eurosceptics in the Conservative Party that triggered this entire situation.
True.
And now we have this mess, and we have another weak leader who is sinking under the weight of it. And I think, it's interesting. I mean, I was laughing at Majid when he was talking about these kind of unreconstructed Stalinist ways and things. But if the Conservative Party see Labour that way and they still can't get it together, then that really speaks volumes about how hopeless this is. And I agree. I don't think this is just about Brexit. Let's look at what we're facing right now. Schools are in crisis. Prisons are in crisis.
Law and order.
The NHS is in crisis. The police are... This country is in a bad
And yet still 1 point ahead. Just 1 point ahead the Labour Party. Quick word from the other, and then coming to you, Carol. Quick word, just 1 point ahead Labour.
And rising.
Is May a weak leader, Carol?
Before we go on to that, 32.2 million people in work, so unemployment at a 45-year low, 217,350 houses built in 2006-17. However...
Is she a weak leader?
You know me. For the past year, I have valiantly defended her as best I can. And now when she keeps on... sea change for me, because she keeps on saying, I'm no quitter, I'm no quitter. If you say I'm not a quitter, you have to be prepared to do something to back that up. And you have to, and she's not doing it. And I think this is a really important time in our history. I don't see Theresa May. What's happening now is everyone's throwing their hat in the ring. So she's lost control of everyone. You've got, Gove, and you've got Amber Rudd trying to get in there. You've got Boris. So it's way out of control. And what's happening every day, she's being undermined. There was that ludicrous report that was leaked that had the clammy hand of Jeremy Hayward on it this week, predicting our future 15 years down the line. Now, this is really bad. She shouldn't be letting leaks happen to me, because there's no way a bunch of civil servants can predict our economy 15 years down the line.
The source of the leak is as yet identified.
Yes, I know. But Jeremy Hayward
questions have been asked.
And the thing is, when the great economic brains of the IMF and the OECD, when they can't predict what's happening a year ahead in our economy, as we have found out, because they said the economy would rise by 1.2%. It's 1.8. However, when they're getting it wrong, a bunch of civil servants cannot predict 15 years down the line.
But for her readers, our listeners, where are the policies, Afua? Where are the policies that excite people?
Well, exactly. This whole government is a reaction. There is no vision. She goes to China and talks about British dream. What British dream? You can't just pluck that out of thin air. Who in this country knows what she's talking about? People still cannot afford houses. I do not see, Carol, how suppressing a report about the prospects of economic growth
out
is
of control.
the answer.
She's out, no,
because
but
you're on the same page to a degree.
We are on the same page. What I'm saying is, you shouldn't be having these. If she was in control, you would not be having those kind of leaks.
You said you don't think there are any ideas. I sort of picked up a sort of murmur.
Well, no, I mean, cometh the hour, cometh the leader. But unfortunately, despite the tectonic plate shifts we've had in politics, geopolitics across the world, with the rise of ISIS, with Brexit, with the election of Trump, all of these challenges should have, as the saying goes, produced a leader to rise to the challenge. Instead, it produced a wet fish. I mean, we've got...
She looked at the beginning like she could do it.
She did look at it. She did. Now, look, I've never voted Tory in my life, right?
And There's still time. You're a young man.
Well, yeah, I'm very young. Very young. However, here's the point I was going to make. That, so it might look like, the reason I caveated it, because it might sound like I'm now going to defend her. My major concern is if it undermines her too much, Labour under Corbyn surges ahead, and that's the only point of caution I'd make here.
But they haven't.
I say that somebody who's never voted Tory in my life.
OK, Phil, in your game, if you have a commanding officer, a general who you have a degree of sympathy for, but they're absolutely bloody hopeless, how do the troops respond to that?
It's not a good thing, to be honest, OK, but it's still something that if the whole battalion doesn't gel, that's why a commanding officer has an RSM underneath him. Because if the commanding officer can't get it right,
the Sergeant Major,
it's sure that the Sergeant Major will get it right, do you know what I mean? So the whole thing at the moment, we're focusing on May all the time, but the structure underneath her is crumbling away, and so that's bringing her down as well. So, I think at the moment, in the two opposing parties, which, let's face it, we've only really got two, we've got two toys that don't work properly, and we've picked the one that sort of works better than the other, haven't we? You know what I mean? So that's where we've gone with, isn't it? But, I can't see a way out of, you know, promising all these policies and all these different changes and all that sort of stuff for the moment doesn't wash with me. Because you've got to produce that stuff. You've got to produce that stuff at the end.
Want to rebel, Phil, because, you know, you're saying if you had a bad leader, the ranks would not rebel, would they? They would still follow orders.
Yeah, but some conversations you have behind closed doors, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Publicly standing up and denouncing her and going against her, that doesn't do anybody any favours.
No.
You know, you should have a closed chop on some of that stuff, and you should show a bit more support, and that will get the public behind you. But watching everybody pulling and tugging and arguing and shouting and screaming at each other, they ain't going to get nowhere, is it?
But it's interesting, this week there was a poll, and it was about 2 days ago, and it said 2/3 of Tory voters still support her, which I found incredible now. Her own party don't support her.